So speaking of some of the challenges with security and how you manage against that, there's an interesting, I guess it's an email newsletter that I get from Wired that caught my eye. It's called the AI Lab. Author is Will Knight, and in it he interviewed a gentleman by the name of Zico Coulter, who is he leads a research group at Carnegie Mellon.
Hmm.
And I guess he's well known as basically someone who sort of pokes holes in AI security. And more than anything, I mean, the article is quite interesting. It's an interview which I normally hate. I don't know why, but I just don't like written interviews. But basically went through a whole bunch of different things. But I thought the part that was really interesting is this idea that when it comes to agentic systems, that we sort of need a new view of game theory to start really figuring out the security components, because you have all these same security risks, some of the same security risks that we just talked about in the previous article, um, that that we can't contemplate in the same way that we've historically approached this, because we assume that it's a human actor. And now suddenly we potentially have an AI actor or an agent that is actually on that drive of interaction. And so having this new approach to how we are looking at it from a security standpoint may be necessary. And so it was just sort of really an interesting, again, not my sweet spot in terms of kind of where I play, but it always makes me sit up and pay attention as I'm trying to process what all of this means. I mean, did you take anything from this?
Yeah. I remember in B school, we did a lot of games that like game theory, John Nash type exercises when we would be doing things like pricing or marketing or go to market or competitive launches, because we were trying to figure out how are we either incentivized to do things that are net win-win or lose-lose, where we lose less than our competitor does, and being able to make rational decisions from this. And part of the challenge there is, of course, we had a definition of rationality based on how businesses were supposed to do work. And AI doesn't necessarily have those same sets of rationality in place. AI actually tends to be value neutral and simply is trying to finish the task that you are assigning to it, regardless of value or concept. And I think that's a challenge that we are still dealing with right now in the real world, because we are anthropomorphizing AI to some extent and assuming that it has the same assumptions or business goals that we do, when AI really doesn't. It has not been pre-programmed or pre-trained or pre-weighted to necessarily care about how to actually run a business or to support human goals. So we have this game theory issue where we are trying to do a win-win scenario with where one side doesn't even agree with us on what a win is.
Yeah, it is. Well, what's funny about this whole train of thought is we sort of come full circle, because this is the root of the sort of movie version of the AI risks, right? And that you have an AI system that recognizes that it's going to optimize for this. The easiest way is to eliminate humans, right? That kind of
Would you
mentality,
like
right?
to play a game? Yes.
Right. And yeah, obviously that's not what he's saying here, but what he is saying is that the fundamental idea that underlies that big, the Hollywood movie concept is actually true, and that is that if we're going to focus on how we secure these systems, we need to re-envision the game theory model, because the same things that we as humans value and the way we would evaluate a situation, an AI agent not only will not, right? They don't have the same foundation, the same base. Um, but because they operate with this degree of autonomy, with the fact that there's sort of black box and that we don't really understand, because it's not programmatic, it's not A leads to B, we have to start re-envisioning this. So, to his credit, he's not saying there's an answer. He's basically saying we need a fresh look at this to try
Mhm.
to figure out how we can prepare for this. And I think it's a very this is going to come to a head. I think that some of the concern around agentic AI is overblown, in that most agentic AI right now is is what I'll call barely agentic. I mean, as a vendor in this
Yes.
space,
Mhm.
we run into this all the time. Well, people talk about, oh, our agents, and I like start probing. It's like, what agent? That's an algorithm at best, right? It's not an agent, not in the way I define it or think about it. So we're still very embryonic, but that's a very temporary state, right? As we fast forward here 12, 18 months, they're going to be much more powerful, much more capable, much more autonomous. And these concerns and risks are going to absolutely be very real. And the concern right now is, I think, that the pace of change is outrunning the pace of security. And so, I think it's definitely something that is just worth evaluating and considering. If you're an enterprise leader, this needs to be on radar.
Yes. And I think it's always important to remember that AI's conception of the world is limited and not as complete as a human's. Right now, we call those differences hallucinations, for lack of a better word. But what we're really saying there is that the AI model is less complete of a definition of reality than what we have. And it's important to know what the AI's definition of that is if you're planning to use that AI.
Yeah, well, and I'll give you a very simple example on that topic when it talks about the game theory concept, right?
Mhm.
So, one, and I don't remember where I read this, but I was reading up on it was something that was talking about the difference between the way humans interact and the challenge of the problem we have with the way we as humans look at something and the way an agentic solution might look at it and why we have a disconnect. And that is that if I tell you, hey, I need your help. Can you go handle this for me? And I give you a 2-line instruction, like, there's this book called Data for the People that's behind you, right? I need you to write a report, a 3-page report for me, that I can get to my board,
Mhm.
right? If I already give you those instructions and say, hey, do this for me, you're going to look at me and go, hey, I'm going to have my name on it, my reputation. There's a whole lot of value. There's no way in heck I'm going to, because I don't have enough information to act on.
Right.
What is this report about? Why are they asking for it? Who's on the board? What's the context, right? All of these other questions you would need. And you wouldn't try to give me a response because there's a negative impact to you personally, to your reputation, just to your time, right? For doing all of this without that component, right? If I give that exact same prompt to an AI, it's not going to ask me anything. It's going to just give me an answer, right? It's not going to do that same thing that we as humans do. And that is fundamentally driven by that value equation, right?
Mhm.
That there is no cost to it. It has no reputation to protect. It has no sense of this being any use of its time or energy. So it's going to spit something out. And that's the fundamental difference. And what I love is that's really what this idea of game theory is trying to account for,
Mhm.
right? As far as if we start thinking about it in those terms. So anyway.
Right. Excellent.